Howdy, Commander Echo here. Today we're going to take a look at the new proximity mechanics for the legendary skills that were introduced during this most recent campaign and update cycle, the Vini Vidi Vici, Roma, and Italian Cruiser campaign. The game in the background is going to be with me in the Belfast, as well as DB in another Belfast, and Shadow in the Vauquelin. We've got the northwest spawn between Alpha and Bravo on neighbors in the domination mode. Now, if you think one Belfast is annoying, which it definitely is, you're about to see a pretty sickening display of what a double Belfast can do, especially when it's got reliable spotting. Now, I must admit, when I first read the patch notes the Thursday before this update cycle, and I saw this proximity mechanic being added to the game with the legendary skills, I was, quite frankly, a little upset because black hole strategies and YOLOing into the enemy are already a problem, and then Wargaming decided it was a wise choice to add a mechanic that literally incentivizes these two terrible strategies. And I still think that these proxy effects were not the way to go as a means to make legendary effects more impactful and more legendary, if you will. However, since they're in the game and since they exist, they can be used and they can be abused. The way that they can be abused most effectively is by being in a division. Not all ships will benefit from this as much as others. Not all division compositions will benefit from this as well as others. But this division comp with a double Belfast and a destroyer that doesn't have its own smoke, so it's literally not even possible for it to blind itself. And as long as you're all on comms together, you all work well together and communicate, it can be devastating. And just keep an eye on the game in the background. I won't, do a play-by-play on it terribly often, but this is just absolutely horrific what we end up doing to this enemy team. So we pop our smoke here. I use my smoke first, and we just rip apart this enemy Nuremberg. He never had a chance. So it's both me and DB in this smoke, and if you look really closely at the mini-map, you'll notice there's another cruiser in this smoke with us as well. Now, we know there's a destroyer in Bravo, so we coordinate. DB kicks his hydro on. I try my radar thinking maybe he's edging closer towards our side of Bravo to get these torps running, but alas, he's not. It was worth a try. Two Belfasts here who can get 8 total turrets on to a guy that's lit up by the radar. It's disgusting. So let's talk about these builds for these Belfasts, because the specific builds are important to what make this abusing of the proxy mechanics really shine. So my build is a 14 Legendary 1 Fraser with a kind of medium level Yamamoto and a very high level Mikawa inspirations. I'm running Beyond Range, Igniter, Punch Through, Fixated, and then Fully Packed in my Legendary slot. And as a reminder for that new mechanic, obviously it gives you the additional charge for a total of 3 charges on all your consumables. But the new Fully Packed mechanic also gives you a 30% reduction in the cooldown time of your consumables. So this is just an insane mechanic to abuse. Now, at Legendary 1, this is only a 1.5 kilometer range. Very small. Very small. But when you're working with another Belfast and you want to be hanging out in each other's smokes all the time, you're pretty much guaranteed to be within that 1.5. Comment there on that friendly California. Dude, there was a destroyer in Bravo and you knew it, and then there was a smoke screen just outside of Bravo. And you, in one of the clumsiest battleships at the tier, put yourself in between those two things. That was an inevitability. Anyway, back to the mechanics that we're talking about here. So, I'm running the fully packed 30% reduction, pretty much always going to be within that 1.5 of DB when it's, necessary and coming into play. DB's build is an 11 Legendary 1 Fraser with a high-level Scott and fairly high-level Yamamoto inspirations. He's running Piercer in slot 1, Igniter, Punch Through, and Fixated like me, and then in his legendary slot, he's running Refill Station to give him that plus 10% extra range that he's sacrificing from slot 1 beyond range. He's obviously running a more AP-centric build on his Belfast with, Piercer in slot 1 and a higher level Yamamoto than I've got. But then he's making up for that 10% range with refill station. So when we are within 1.5 of each other, he has the same range as I do and can reach out and hit the same targets that I can. But his AP performance is going to be a little bit better than mine. Now, because his Frazier is a little lower than mine Igniter is a little bit better, so I'm a little more HE focused than he is. So we're really kind of covering each other's bases and making up for what the other one doesn't have. So here, if you notice, look at the cooldown times. My radar instantly cooled down from the time that was left on it, and my sonar cooldown dropped dramatically when we got back within 1.5. I've had my guns over the left side just in case the destroyer from the red team up at Charlie kind of tried to make a move or something, and I had to end up shooting at him. I wanted to be able to turn bow in to the enemy battleships in the southeast and instantly be able to get my guns on that guy. Turned out to not need to use that, so now we're swinging the guns back over the starboard side, but that was kind of a precautionary measure. I could have already had the guns over here, could have already smoked up and been lobbing at Nelson, so it was a little bit of a loss of potential damage there, but I figured it was important to be able to quickly react to that enemy destroyer in the event that he popped up and we had an angle on him through those islands. So, talking about this 30% cooldown reduction a little more, on my build, I always run a 2-star combat flag on the Belfast, giving me a little more speed and a little more cooldown time. So without the proxy effect, my cooldowns on my consumables are 171 seconds on the sonar, 228 seconds on the smoke, and 171 seconds again also on the radar. So your two kind of detection consumables have that same cooldown of 171. Now, when you get within that 1.5 kilometers of a friendly proxy effect and your additional 30% reduction in your cooldown, this drops your sonar and your radar down to 119. Now, this is important because the sonar has a 94-second duration. This leaves you only 25 seconds where you're not covered by your own sonar. As a side note, check out this Nelson. Man, he wants nothing to do with a double Belfast Nuremberg golden shower just raining down on him nearly continuously. I guess he left his umbrella back at port, and looks like he's trying to go back to get it. Maybe it'll help him, but I don't really think so. Anyway, back to the sonar. Since I'm coordinating with another Belfast, we are always able to work together. Hey, you use your sonar. Okay, it's about to cool off. I'm going to flip on mine now. So we perpetually got our own coverage between the two of us in smokes. We're able to cover that 25-second gap and often get a slight overlap. This new proxy mechanic drops the smokescreen cooldown time to a ridiculous 160 seconds. When you calculate that the smoke screens on the Belfast have a 15-second deployment time, it's blooming or puffing for 15 seconds, and then after that 15 seconds ends, it's got a 103-second duration. This gives it a 118-second total smoke time. This leaves you with a gap between the smoke time and the cooldown time of only 42 seconds. And when you double this up with another Belfast's smoke, and you're offsetting, jumping from one smoke to the next, you're going to see here in a little bit, my smoke just ended and now we're sitting in DB's smoke. My smoke only has 42, 41, 40 seconds left to cool back down, but DB's smoke has a minute and 20 something odd seconds remaining, which means my smoke's going to come off cooldown, I'm going to have it available, and we're still going to be sitting in DB's smoke for 40-ish seconds. It's just insane. This is the power of these proximity effects. Now, you're not going to be able to get this to work all the time. If that enemy destroyer after he capped Bravo, yes, I didn't pick him up with the radar, and then let's say after I burned my radar, he pushed into us, got a little closer with those torps. We would have had to scatter to get away from his torps. Hopefully we would have at least picked them up on the sonar and stuff. But you can't always get this to work. But when you can, like we do in this game, look at these two battleships. What can they possibly do down at Alpha? There's nothing they can do about this. We've got a DD out there screening preventing them from pushing in and being aggressive. It's two torpedo battleships, so they would love nothing more than to be able to push into us. They know it's Belfast, but we've also got our special guest. Those eagle-eyed of you, when I pulled up the team list, might have already noticed who that was. But we've got a Nuremberg here with the same range torps as the Scharnhorst and the Gneisenau down there. So it's checkmate. It's a stalemate, Mexican standoff. You push into us, okay, that's fine. We've got the same range torps sitting in this smoke as you do. So have fun pushing in. Plus, we've got our DD floating around down there as an X factor. Keeping those guys lit, keeping them spotted. They have no recourse against us. We just get to lob HE, start fires. If they turn broadside, flip to the AP. Continuously resetting these guys. They've got no chance to actually get that cap. It's disgusting. Based on what has happened in the game prior to this, there's nothing these guys can do about it. We've got sonar to protect ourselves from errant torps from other spots of the map, but as of right now, there's no threat from that, obviously. So, but in that first round of smokes, you saw, we had sonars running, etc. when there was that destroyer in Bravo. So this is the power and potential of these new proximity mechanics. Like I said, you can't always get them to work. Not every game is it going to happen for you, but when you can get it to work, these are incredibly, incredibly powerful. And they give a division that's coordinating well together. And even Randoms, our special guest, he's making this work too. He's getting some kind of benefit. He's in Nuremberg, right? So he's either getting the range if he's running von Mueller with refill station, or he's getting an extra charge and better cooldown on his great German Hydro. So we're about to see here, for those of you who didn't catch it earlier, who our special guest is. Take a look at who was in the Nuremberg. So this is a great effect that you can use when you can get it to work. Don't try to force it. It's just like torps on a German battleship. When you can get it to work, get it in play. It's awesome to have, but don't force opportunities. Look for those opportunities and make them happen when you can, but don't try to force it, because you'll have to get yourself into trouble when you're trying to force the situation. So I hope this gave you something to think about with these new proxy effects. I still don't think they're the greatest thing. I think they're going to encourage bad play styles that we don't necessarily want to see out there. A lot of black holing, a lot of YOLOing that isn't necessary. I think overall they still might hurt the game, but they can make the game so much better when you can get them to work, when you can coordinate it in a division, when you can build specifically for it and plan around it. Well, let me know in the comments below your thoughts on these new proxy mechanics, playing with them and playing against them. Thanks an awful lot for listening, everybody. I greatly appreciate it. And as always, stay salty, Commanders.